So we are a year and a half into these 2023 draft picks careers. So I felt like it would be a good time to just revisit memory lane and do a 2023 redraft. Because I think there's been a lot that has changed from pretty much the midway point to last year, the end of last year's season slash the beginning of this year's season to right now, because I think players have skyrocketed in a redraft and have fallen a ton in a redraft. So shout out to fanspo.com being the GOAT. You could actually go through all these redrafts as well if you want to do 2020 all the way up to doing a 2025 mock this year. You could also use your big board as well, and I don't even remember what my 2023 big board looked like that I made on the site. I don't even know how many players I did, but we're gonna use it, so let's get into this. So the Spurs with the #1 overall pick. Is this my big board? Yeah, I had Scoot #2. Oh man, and I have no idea where Scoot's gonna go in this redraft. Obviously, it's a no-brainer with the #1 overall pick. It's going to be Victor Wembanyama. He has been one of the best rookies into sophomores we have ever seen, basically since LeBron James or Anthony Davis. So far, Wemby has averaged around 22 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 4 assists in his career. He shot 47% from the field, 33% from 3. He won the Rookie of the Year award. Last year, he was runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting. This year, he's leading the NBA in blocks with 3.5 a night, and I assume he's actually going to get Defensive Player of the Year this year as a 21-year-old. He was a generational prospect, and he has lived up to those generational expectations so far, which is kind of impossible to do, but he's an alien on the floor. He's a great three-point shooter for somebody of his size. Maybe should take a little bit less per game, but he's just an unreal two-way player. And I'm really excited to see what the age 28 version of Wemby is going to look like. Will he have a ring by then? You can let me know in the comments. So obviously a clear 1.1 in this redraft. Number 2, looking back on it, the Charlotte Hornets made the right decision. A lot of people, including me, thought they should have drafted Scoot Henderson, and you figured it out with LaMelo and Scoot, because I thought you could play them side by side, and you could run into the Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox problem, and you could trade somebody for a All-NBA caliber big man in Domantas Sabonis, what the Sacramento Kings did. But I think the Hornets made the right decision. They took Brandon Miller with the #2 overall pick, and that is going to be what we're going to be doing here once again in the redraft, as Brandon Miller has been a phenomenal 3-level scoring wing going into not the greatest environment in the world. Last year, he finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting because Chet Holmgren was 2nd. He averaged about 17 points, shot 44% from the field, 37% from 3. This year, the numbers haven't improved a ton because he's taking about 4 more shots a night and about 4 more threes a night. He's shooting 40% from the field, 35% from 3 on 11 attempts a night. He's averaging 21.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. And I'm not really going to fault Brandon Miller for those numbers too much, just because this Hornets team has been decimated by injuries. And when LaMelo Ball is out, Brandon Miller is by far and away the #1 option, because I think Miles Bridges has not really lived up to what he's being paid to be a top scoring option for this team. And guys like Micic, Grant Williams, before he got hurt, rookie T.J. Salon, and a lot of big men that are one-dimensional, they're not creating their own shot. So there's a lot of stress and pressure on Brandon Miller as the only shot creator on their team right now. So the Hornets made the right pick, and it was looking like just a phenomenal pick they did. When everybody was saying they were wrong, and Brandon Miller has been great with a coaching change, front office change, ownership change. Now here's where it's going to change. Oh man, Scoot Henderson, I really liked watching him at the G League Ignite. I thought he wasn't a generational point guard prospect, but I thought he was going to be a damn good one, and it has been somewhat of a disaster so far. So we're not going to have Scoot Henderson go #3 in a redraft. I don't know how far he's going to fall, but this team eventually traded Damian Lillard a couple months later. We're going to have them take Amen Thompson, who went 4th overall. Now, Amen Thompson is in a miles better situation than Scoot Henderson is in. He's under a great head coach in Ime Udoka. He's playing around some great defenders like Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason. Amen Thompson hasn't really had much of a jump shot so far, but this year he's playing around 27 minutes a night. He's averaging 12 points, 7 rebounds, about a steal a night, 2 assists a night, shooting 55% from the field. And I don't know if he's going to be a true playmaking point guard one day. I don't know if he's ever going to have a consistent jumper, because if he does, he could be one of the best 30 players in the NBA, but he's already an incredible defender. He's one of the fastest players in the NBA, and you can make an argument he's the most athletic player in the NBA, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, we're going to have Amen Thompson go #3 here to eventually replace Damian Lillard in Portland. Now, I would actually love to see Scoot Henderson under Ime Udoka in Houston. I wonder if they would take a chance on the potential, but I don't think so. And a big question mark with Houston this year has been their shooting, and I'm going to get them Grady Dick, because this team could use somebody that's as good of a 3-point shooter as Grady Dick is, because guys like Jalen Green, even Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, they all come with their inconsistencies sometimes with their 3-point shot, and Grady Dick under Ime Udoka, I think could actually be a much more improved defender that we're seeing in Toronto, even though I think Grady Dick is actually somewhat underrated at times as a defender. He wasn't great to start off his career, but after the OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam trades, he really emerged as a great scoring option, and this year he's not really a stand-in-the-corner guy anymore. He got off to a great start, had a little bit of a rough patch a couple games ago, but has been great against Chicago as of late, Miami, and is averaging 18.5 points this year, 3 rebounds, shooting 90% from the free throw line, 42% from the field, and 34% from 3. And I believe he would be a much better three-point shooter when he hasn't had this much of an offensive load that he's currently taking in Toronto. So yeah, shout out to like Toronto getting Grady Dick where they got him originally, and he's shooting up to 4 in my redraft. Number 5 for Detroit. And I'm still excited to see what Asor Thompson could be in this league. I think there's still going to be some offensive deficiencies he's going to have to overcome, because is he going to be limited as a shooter or as a shot creator? But like his twin brother, he's insanely quick, insanely athletic, and insanely good as a defender. And I think that's going to be valuable next to Cade, but I kind of like the long-term upside of Bilal Coulibaly, who was ranked 21st in my big board. Hands up, that's a bad take right now. I like Colby Jones a ton. I keep forgetting this is my big board, just looking back at it. Yeah, I loved Kobe Buffkin. I had Walker and Hendricks fairly high. I had Casey Wallace at 12, Anthony Black at 13. I like Leonard Miller a ton. I'd like to see him play a little bit more. I like Nick Smith Jr. a ton. I felt like I was higher on Derek Lively than the consensus, and he ended up even going higher in this draft. So there's going to be some good takes. There'll be some bad takes. But I'm going to have them go Bilal Coulibaly here with the 5th overall pick. It's pretty much just having the offensive upside on the perimeter next to Cade. And Bilal is still just 20 years old. He didn't play a ton in France going into this 2023 draft, and he's on currently the worst team in the NBA. It's not a great environment, and his leaders and veterans in the locker room, outside of like Jonas Valanciunas and Malcolm Brogdon, are Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. It was a disastrous season last year for the Wizards as a whole, but I thought Bilal showed great promise as one of the more younger players in the NBA in a bad environment. This year, he's shooting around 44% from the field, 31% from 3, averaging around 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.4 steals. But I like the defense already as somebody that's 20 years old. He is 6'6". He's got a good wingspan, and I think could be a nice secondary shot creator one day. And I think that's what you're drafting around Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey at the time. And I know you may value Asor Thompson's defense a little bit more, but I'm going to go with Bilal here with the 5th overall pick. So that leaves us at Orlando at 6. I don't think they go Anthony Black, even though I like them getting Asor Thompson just to improve this defense a little bit more. I think there's a clear pick here. And I like Derek Lively. Yeah, Derek Lively, who ended up going outside the top 10 to the Dallas Mavericks. They actually traded down 2 spots, and they got Derek Lively, who looks like a home run pick for Dallas. He was a huge part why they were able to go to the finals last year. Him and Luka have a great connection already with pick and rolls. And Orlando, they don't have their franchise center in Wendell Carter Jr. Obviously, they have Mo Wagner and Goga Bitadze, so they have a plethora of centers right now. But I think you're getting somebody with great upside at the center spot next to Paolo Banchero long term. And they could just be a really fun Duke front court together, as this year Lively's averaging around 9 points, 7.5 rebounds, and shooting 69% from the field. He's averaging around 1.5 blocks per game in about 24 minutes because they have another good center in Daniel Gafford, and they don't really play them out there at the same time. So we're going to get him to be like that 3-4-5. Wow, that'd be fun with Franz, Paolo, and Derek Lively in Orlando. So far, pretty much, we've had Wemby and Miller stay the same. And then we've had some switch ups. We've had Amen go from 4 to 3, Grady Dick go from outside the top 10 to number 4, Bilal goes up a couple spots to 5, and same with Derek Lively going to 6. And it's really cool because you can see like the roster at the time as well, because this is before Bradley Beal ended up getting traded to the Phoenix Suns. Kristaps was a pending free agent as well. So we're on the clock here at 7 with the Washington Wizards. We know that they ended up trading up a spot to get Bilal Coulibaly, and that's not going to be the case here. So I think this is where Scoot Henderson could get some consideration. Do you still see the upside in Scoot? Take him at number 7 here. I'm not sure. Like, he showed his flashes, but he's had a lot of bad moments in this league. You could look to get some defense in Asor Thompson, which I do like as well. But I think also Cason Wallace could be in play here. Anthony Black could be in play here. I mean, Brandon Podziemski has really hurt his value this year. Keontae George could be in play here. How high does GG Jackson go in a redraft? There's a lot of interesting things. And I think just because of the upside he could be offensively, I'm going to have Asor Thompson go, because I think him and Cason Wallace could be a little bit similar. I do like Thompson's defense a little bit more. He's taller. I think he can guard multiple positions. And Wallace, though, he's definitely a better shooter than Asor Thompson. I don't know if he's a better creator, at least right now. Scoot obviously could be in play here. I have no idea where Scoot's going to go in this redraft. So I'm going to have the Washington Wizards go with Asor Thompson, who has shown some great defensive flashes. He's a great rebounder, a good defender as a whole, good shot blocker. He obviously struggled with a notable health scare last year. And this year, it's a small sample size throughout 7 games, but he's averaging around around 8 points, 4 rebounds, 45% from the field. I think it's been taking better shots so far, and I really hope the shot can come around because I think Asor Thompson could still be one of the better players in the draft. So we're going to have him go to Washington, obviously in this post-Bradley Beal era. We're on the clock here at 8 with the Indiana Pacers. I still like Cam Whitmore's upside in this league. I wonder if they would still go Jarris Walker. Taylor Hendricks looked really great at the end of last year, and then this year suffers just such a gruesome injury. Jordan Hawkins got off to a good start. He's been struggling. This draft has kind of been a little bit all over the place. And like, how high do I want Jaime Jaquez and GG Jackson to go? Like, that's a really interesting debate. But I think they just go Cason Wallace. He's the next best guy on the board. He is a stud perimeter defender. We saw that from day one in OKC. We even saw that obviously at Kentucky. There's a reason why Sam Presti liked him a ton. He played notable minutes for a team that went to round 2 in the Western Conference playoffs last year. His shot hasn't been as good this year. It's actually dropped off a ton from 42% on about 3 attempts a night last year to relatively the same volume this year, and is shooting around 30% from 3, but he's averaging 1.8 steals. He's playing 27 minutes a night. He's an elite perimeter defender, and I think you could definitely play him and Tyrese Haliburton at the same time if you wanted to, and I think just has a little bit higher of a floor in this league than Jarris Walker does, but I wonder if they would go Jarris in a redraft. So we're at number 9. Is this where Scoot Henderson falls? Because do you think Scoot or Keontae George has higher upside long term? I think that is up for debate, or Anthony Black, who I do like as well. And you know what? This is where I think the slide happens with Scoot. I think Utah would take a chance on him still, just in a different environment. He could have a great 2-man game with Lauri Markkanen, and I'd also love just him being coached under Will Hardy. I just don't think Chauncey Billups has done right for Scoot Henderson so far. Scoot last year obviously had his ups and downs, but he had a really strong finish to the year. He shot 32% from 3, but I really like 82% from the line and 5.5 assists on a bad Portland team. This year, though, he's played just 3 games in the starting lineup, and he's come off the bench for 16 of them. The scoring is dropped, the minutes have dropped, the field goal percentage is up, but the 3-point shot is down. The free throws is slightly down as well. It just doesn't seem like he has as much aggression and athleticism that we saw at the G League Ignite and maybe even in his rookie season. I still like Scoot long term, and I think this may be a little bit reactionary. Like, I may have Scoot going too low. You probably think, or you may think, and I wouldn't disagree, that Washington would be interested in him at 7. Like, would Orlando be interested at 6? But I think for Indiana, like, knowing what they were going to be in the playoffs last year, I think just getting somebody like Cason would be great for their defense. And I think, yeah, Utah would take the chance on Scoot at 9. I don't think he would fall out of the top 10 just because of the pedigree he had going into this year's draft. So OKC at 10, we know they ended up getting Cason Wallace, but I'm going to go with somebody that I think is kind of better offensively, definitely, in Anthony Black. Not as good defensively, but I still think has great upside on that end of the floor because Black's got a good wingspan. He's 6'7". He can pass the ball a little bit. Last year, he showed some great 3-point shooting flashes. It hasn't been there this year, but I think he's also struggled really taking on a much larger role offensively with all these injuries in Orlando. But I think him still being fairly young in this league, he's 20 years old, that's going to come around eventually, and I think could be a nice 2-way player for OKC. He's in a good environment in Orlando. This could be even a better environment in OKC, one of the best environments in the NBA. So we're on the clock here, 11 with Orlando. They got Derek Lively at 6. Obviously, they'd like to have this pick back. I didn't like it at the time where they took Jett Howard. I thought that was a massive reach. He was my 26th ranked player, and I'm sure they would like to take maybe Grady Dick if they had that pick over again. So at 11, this is where maybe Cam Whitmore could go. This is where maybe Jarris Walker could go. GG Jackson, just we haven't seen him yet this year, so I wonder if he's going to look as effective where he's not going to nearly get as many reps as we saw last year. And I actually like them taking the upside of Keontae George here. I know that may be a little bit shocking over GG Jackson, over Jaime Jaquez, over Cam Whitmore, but I think Keontae George's numbers would look a lot better if he didn't have as high of a usage rate as he's had so far in Utah. And also imagining him around great defenders like Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, now Derek Lively there. Yes, he shot 33% from 3 pretty much in his first 2 years and sub 40% from the field, but he's asked to do way too much, and I really like what he's been doing as a combo guard. I think him and Jalen Suggs would be able to play great off each other, as Suggs could help him out defensively, but I also think Keontae George could be even better as a playmaker and as a passer over in Orlando. I actually love this fit. So we're going to have Keontae George go 11, who was on the board for them at the time when they took Jett Howard, who hasn't really taken advantage of the increase in opportunity with all those injuries. I like the idea of maybe them going a little bit bigger here in Dallas. Like, they took Derek Lively originally. Just because of Hendrick's injury, that scares me a ton. Maybe they would go after Trace Jackson Davis here, but I also like Jarris Walker and his upside in Dallas. And you could say Walker has been slightly disappointing in year number 2. Last year, we didn't get to see a ton of Walker, but when we did, he looked great out there, and he looked great as a defender, but I feel like Rick Carlisle was too quick to hook him on his minutes and not play him consistently enough at times. And obviously, they went to the conference finals, so they had to play their best 9 and 10 guys. This year, though, he's playing around 8 more minutes a night. The field goal percentage is slightly up. He's still a good 3-point shooter. He's just not taking a lot of shots out there. I really like his defense, and him as a potential lob threat because of the athleticism he has would be fun with Luka Doncic. So we're going to have Jarris Walker go there. 13, Toronto. They weren't able to get the guy they originally drafted in Grady Dick. I don't know if Pods would still go here. I think he's just really hurt his value this year. I think they could look at Jaime Jaquez as a shooter. I think this could be the Jaime or GG Jackson pick. And yeah, I'm going to have Jaime Jaquez go to the Toronto Raptors. I had him going low in my redraft at the end of last year's season, and I think that met with some criticism from you guys, but my reasoning was Jaime Jaquez was an older player coming out of UCLA, and I think last year was one of the better years we were going to see from Jaquez. He's slightly down this year across the board with his shot, but I still like his shot creating ability, and I think could be a nice off-ball player to Scotty Barnes and eventually Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett in Toronto. You know what? I'm actually talking myself out of that. I really give that whole Jaime Jaquez feel, but I do feel like GG Jackson would be more of the Masai Ujiri pick, just the upside, the athleticism, what we saw from him in his rookie season. So I really just pulled the Uno reverse card on you because last year Jackson averaged 14.5 points. He shot 35% from three. I don't know if the numbers are going to look that good when he comes back, hopefully in January, but I do think GG Jackson could be a productive player for a long time as he just turned 20 years old the other day, and you can now insert him into this Raptors young core there at 13. So at 14, the Pelicans, I think they would go with somebody a little bit older, like their timeline was still win now. So I don't know if they would go Cam Whitmore. I think it would still come down to Jordan Hawkins, what they have in him, or Jaime Jaquez, who I just gave that analysis to Toronto, but I think they would just still go with Jordan Hawkins here, who I did like pre-draft. I had him 10th. We're going to have him go here 14 just because I think he's a win now player. He was that coming out of UConn, and he was good for them last year. He got off to a good start this year. His efficiency may crater a little bit because he's being asked to do way too much with all the injuries there in New Orleans. So that wraps up the lottery, where the only picks that stayed the same were 1, Wemby to San Antonio, 2, Brandon Miller to Charlotte, and yeah, number 14, Jordan Hawkins to Pelicans. Everything else switched up. So here in the non-lottery picks, I don't think Kobe Buffkin goes to Atlanta here at 15. I think they could enjoy Jaime Jaquez as an off-ball player to Trae Young. They're in a team situation with DeJounte Murray at the time, was more so win now. I loved Kobe Buffkin in the pre-draft process. I thought he was one of the best guys in this class around, like, to get in this range, but I didn't like his fit in Atlanta because he was going to be behind Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I didn't know if the opportunity was going to be there, and they ended up moving Murray, and maybe he's going to be more involved this year as we get more into year number 2 for him. But yeah, Jaquez is going to go there to Atlanta next to Trae Young. You can let me know if you guys agree with that. So 16, Utah. They originally got Scoot Henderson at 9. I think they probably still pull the... is this probably where Cam Whitmore goes? Because it's like, I like Whitmore here, but I also like Hendricks. I think this is where Whitmore goes. Whitmore would be a fun offensive player, similar to what like we've been seeing from Keontae George at times in Utah. I feel like the efficiency would be better there. And Cam Whitmore, like, if you replace him with Keontae George in Utah, and we get to see Cam Whitmore take like 12 plus shots a night, he could average a ton in this league. Obviously, the medical scares dropped him, and in Houston, he's behind so many guys. So I think in this redraft, like, maybe Whitmore actually goes to Atlanta. Maybe he goes to a team higher up than this. So I think, like, looking back on this, Whitmore maybe he's a little bit lower in my eyes. At 17, this is probably where I'm going to have the Lakers take a chance on Taylor Hendricks, because I think he can actually be a fun tweener spot between like Rui and AD, and I think just a better, more exciting offensive version than what Jared Vanderbilt has given the Lakers. And obviously with his health, that's been disappointing since they got him around this year, and that was like at this year's trade deadline. So Taylor Hendricks is going to go there at 17. Now, you know who could be the ultimate Heat culture guy here at 18? Unless I like somebody else. Like, I don't think it's Pods. I think Pods has fallen off a little bit. How low did I don't even think I knew much about him at Dayton before this draft. So yeah, it's gonna take me a second to find this guy. Yeah, he's ranked all the way down here. Tumani Kamara. Imagine him and like Hayward Highsmith running up and down the floor together. Tumani Kamara, I think, would actually go higher in a redraft than Brandon Podziemski, which is just wild how much half a year changes. And I don't know if I'm wrong there, right? Because Tumani Kamara, I think, is one of the more underrated defenders on the perimeter, in the post, and he could switch on to multiple positions. And for Miami Heat, like what they're building over there, that is actually one of my favorite picks here in this redraft. And I think Golden State does not go Pods here. I don't know if Golden State would go Pods here, right? Like, I mean, the way that this draft has fallen, you know what? They probably still go Brandon Podziemski. I'm gonna have him go 19. I think at my end of the year redraft last year, I had him go like top 10 to the Pacers, and he just screamed like a Pacer to me. But this year with the shot not falling, like Luka Doncic, clamped him up on defense. Yeah, I gotta have pods go a little bit lower. Houston here at 20. They originally got Grady Dick at number 4. Cam Whitmore is off the board. So you know what? I'm gonna have them go Trace Jackson Davis, just be a backup to Alperu and Şengün, and just in this front court as a whole, which I don't mind because Cam Whitmore I think is struggling to play at times for what his role offensively is, and maybe the way TGAD is playing, he would play over like Jock Landale, and maybe even Steven Adams at one point, and would definitely be like, I think, the full-time backup to Alperu and Şengün. So the Nets, I don't know what they would do here because they originally got like Noah Clowney and Dariq Whitehead, and Dariq Whitehead has been somewhat disappointing. So I think they would take a chance on Kobe Buffkin. I think he's been a good player so far in his roles at times. He struggled with health last year to stay on the floor, but I don't know, man. His shot just isn't falling this year. So maybe they still go Dariq Whitehead. Actually, you know who I'm going to have them take here that I think deserves more playing time over in Utah? I think it's Bryce Sensabaugh. So yeah, just like for what the Nets are building, I think a little bit more upside, that would be Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State. And like Marcus Sasser's a little bit older. I mean, the way Jalen Hood-Schifino's been playing, no. I don't know if they would take Kobe Buffkin, Leonard Miller, like Nick Smith possibilities. I like Andre Jackson a ton as well, but does that make sense for what the Nets were doing at the time? Like, you're trying to get a little bit more higher upside guys. You know who I like, though? Julian Strawther. I think a better wing than Dariq Whitehead. I think he's going to be a really good piece for Denver, and they should definitely not trade him at the deadline. So, Sensabaugh and Strawther, not too bad for the Nets. And I think we can look to get some defense in Portland, just around Amen Thompson. Like, Amen Thompson and Andre Jackson defensively would be a lot of fun. So, yeah, we're just going to get more defense in Portland. On the clock here, 24, Marcus Sasser. This is way too low. I think he should go a little bit higher. I just kind of like this fit a ton. They basically just took on Rashawn Holmes to take Olivier Maxence Prosper here, but now you're getting a solid combo guard that could play some defense, coming from a great defensive college in Houston, and then also a good three-point shooter. I think is a fun backup guard for them. And I think now, like from 25 on, you're just looking at the higher upside guys. So like we're gonna keep Kobe Buffkin in the state of Michigan. We're going to have him go to the Pistons, just basically just replace Sasser over there. And he has not been as efficient or as good of a defender, but he could still have some upside. I had a lot of Kobe Buffkin stock, unfortunately. So here we go. 26, the Pacers, maybe a little bit low for him. Maybe he should have gone already. Ben Shepherd, like he gave them great production last year, and I'm sure the Pacers would take him again if he was on the board. Charlotte at 27, they originally took Nick Smith here. Would they do the same? I think I'm actually going to go a little bit of an older prospect, and Jalen Wilson from Kansas. Maybe that's who the Nets would take with one of their picks, because clearly they like Jalen Wilson a ton. But I'm going to have him go to Charlotte here, who falls a little bit past that Nets pick. I think Utah would probably take a chance on Jet Howard here, or Chris Murray for some shooting. I'll probably have Chris Murray go more likely in the first round than Jet. 29, Denver, like originally getting Strawther here. This is like a really tough spot in this draft. I like what Ryan Repair has potential-wise. Like maybe Jet still goes here. I think that's where he should have gone originally. So maybe Denver could turn him into something. And then lastly at 30, this is where Kobe Brown went to the Clippers. I didn't love that pick. Thought it was a reach a little bit. So I think they're just trying to find somebody they could build around. Maybe Noah Clowney. Similar vibe to Kobe Brown, but could be a better player long term. So that's going to wrap out my 2023 redraft. Honestly, this draft is carried a lot by Wemby and Miller right now as like top guys. I think Thompson, Dick, like Koulibaly have top end potential. We'll see if they ever reach that. And then there's some good complementary pieces in this class, but it gets really hairy outside the lottery, in my opinion. So let me know what you agree or disagree with what I did down below. And if you did enjoy this, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Subscribe for maybe another redraft. If you want to see a very early 2024 redraft, you can let me know. I think that may be way too early though. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.